To follow along with the written version of this pattern and download the interactive PDF, use the links on screen now, in the description below, or by going to clubcrochet.com/bat. Hey there, it's Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the itty bittiest, tiniest bat you ever did see. I love it. Look how cute it is. This pattern is our newest edition of our Amigurumi patterns, specifically our Halloween Amigurumi patterns. These are patterns that I designed with 100 stitches or less with absolutely no sewing, other than sewing it together or maybe embroidering on some teeth. But it is very optimized crochet pattern, very tiny, very quick to make. You can see I made little skulls and stuff. And this is our newest iteration, a little tiny bat. This pattern was actually designed live on a live stream too, so it was really cool to actually go through the process of actually designing a Amigurumi live. That was a lot of fun. If you like this pattern and want to find more patterns very similar to it, you can find our full Amigurumi collection at clubcrochet.com/Amigurumi or Amigurumi.com. You can find all of our Halloween themed patterns. We have a whole bunch of Halloween themed patterns. In fact, this pattern was also designed as an addition to our new cauldron pattern. This is a dice pouch that you can actually put your little Amigurumi into, so you're actually making a little brew. So you can find all those at clubcrochet.com/Halloween. And yeah. All right, a few things to go over before we get hooking. The first is that this pattern is probably not the best if you are a complete beginner and you've never crocheted before in your life. If you are absolutely very fresh to crocheting, I suggest starting with a more easy pattern. We have a free ghost pattern on the website that's great for beginners, or we have a complete 101 series that you can find at crocheting101.com. There is a left-handed and right-handed version of this video. Make sure to watch the one that works best for you. You can also get extra help in the comments down below or in the Discord channel or Facebook group, also found in the comments in the description down below. And there are time codes so you can quickly jump around this pattern, jump straight to making the wings or making the ears, to quickly jump around in this pattern. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about before we get hooking is the materials that you're going to need to crochet this pattern along with me. Really quick, I also figured out while editing this video how to make an even tinier version of these bats. So watch to the very end of this video and I'll add a little tiny snippet to explain how I made these itty bitty versions as well. For this pattern, you're going to need the following materials. I'm going to be using worsted weight yarn and 100% cotton, but you can really make this out of any yarn that you want. In fact, I would love to see one made with bulky, like blanket yarn to make a giant mini bat. That would be really cool to see. But we're going to be using worsted weight Amigurumi cotton yarn. This is our special Amigurumi brand, Club Crochet brand of yarn. We'll be using purple for this video, but you can obviously use any kind of color that you'd like. For our crochet hook, we're using a size G 4mm crochet hook. It's just the best kind of hook to use with the yarn we're going to be using, but if you're using larger yarn, you're going to want a larger crochet hook to go with that. You'll need a pair of scissors for cutting stuff and a darning needle to help sew in hard to reach stitches. Now this pattern is not a lot of sewing together. You just need to use a darning needle really for sewing it closed or for adding our little teeth here. I like using a crimped end like this. It helps get in and out of hard to reach stitches. The last things you want will be some safety eyes. I'm going to be using size 6mm safety eyes in this video. A little bit of stuffing. I actually use my extra threads as my stuffing, and if you want to get extra with it, you can use these neodymium magnets. These are super cool, strong magnets, and if you add magnets into the base, you can make your mini bat magnetic so that it can hang upside down, which is pretty cool. All right, if you want to get a kit with all the materials that you need, or learn how you can support this channel in general, check them all out at clubcrochet.com. You can join our live crochet alongs where we crochet patterns together. This was actually designed in a live crochet along. To join those, just like down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell icon so you don't miss it when we go live. All right, well, without further ado, let's get hooking. Okay, to get started with our bat, we're going to start with our purple yarn, and we're going to start with a magic loop. Now, if you don't know how to make the magic loop at all, I'm going to show you my favorite way to do it right here. But if you want a full video tutorial that goes into details about how to make the magic loop, check the link up here or in the description down below, or by going to clubcrochet.com/magic loop. Now, my favorite way to make the magic loop, I have the yarn facing downwards towards the ground, and we're going to pinch it with our middle finger and thumb like that. Then you want to go over your index finger and middle finger 2 times. We're aiming to create an X on the front towards us. Oops, there you go. And 2 parallel lines on the back away from us. Take the tail end right here, place it between your ring finger and pinky finger, and close it in, and that's just going to hold everything in place. Now with your crochet hook, in your dominant hand. Have the back of your hand facing you. You want to go under the first bar and hook onto the second one like that. Pull that second bar under the first one and loop it around to create a little loop at the end of your crochet hook. Now going over this first bar, hook onto the second one. You might want your index finger to help guide your yarn over your crochet hook like that. Once it's on your crochet hook, you want to pull it through the loop by twisting it and scooping it to make sure you get through that full chain. That's going to make a chain, and the end of our magic loop, we can pull that relatively tight, about the size of about a dime is usually how big I want on my magic loop. All right, for round 1 of our bat, we're going to start by making our ears and our stitches for round 1. We're going to start with 3 single crochets into the center of our magic loop. Now I'm going to just go ahead and assume you know how to make a single crochet and go into the stitch, pull a loop through, yarn over, and going into those 2 stitches like that. So there's 1. Try to make your single crochets relatively loose as we do our first rounds here, just because it's going to make your life a lot easier later on. Okay, so there's our 3 single crochets. Now we're going to make our first ear. For an ear, we're going to chain 3. So we yarn over and pull through the loop. There's 1, 2, oops, and 3 like that. Now, as I work our pieces, when we make our ears and our wings, we want to work into the back loops of the chains. That means that that's going to be the loop on the actual back right here. It's kind of like, looks like a little spine loop. So if you're looking at a chain, you have the top loop, you have the bottom loop right here, and then you have the back loop, which is the one right back here. For our ears, we want to skip our first chain, single crochet into the second chain right here, and then half double crochet into our third chain right there. So first, let's do that. We're going to skip our first chain, and then single crochet in the second one, working in that back loop. So I'm going to flip it outside like this, so I can get into that back loop, and we're going to do a single crochet. I like to use my nail to help guide my hook into the loop there, and then we yarn over, pull it through the chain, yarn over again, and pull through 2 for our first single crochet of our ear. And then our next one right there, we want a half double crochet. For a half double crochet, we yarn over, go into that chain, make sure you work into the chain like this, and then we yarn over again, pull it under the chain, then yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Oops. That yarn kind of got split. There we go. 3. And that's going to be how to make our ear. Now, I also kind of like to pinch the end of the ear, but we can do that later as well. All right, after doing our 3 single crochets and our first ear, we want to do 4 more single crochets into the magic loop. So go into the center. And we're going to do 4 single crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4, like that. Now we want to make 1 more ear. We'll go through that again a little quicker now. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Skip our first chain and single crochet into our second one, making sure to work into that back loop like that. Do a single crochet into that one. And then half double crochet into our last chain right here. We yarn over into that last chain, get our hook in there, pull through, and pull through all 3. 1, 2, and 3. To finish up round 1, we want 1 more single crochet into the center of our magic loop right here. All right. Now we can pull this, the tail end tight, and it should close that magic loop up. We're not going to be using a stitch marker here because we actually only have a few rounds to work with, and it's just going to make our life a little bit easier. All right, so now we are on to round 2. For round 2, we're going to be making our wings of our bat. We also want to make sure to work around the ears for round 2. So as we make our stitches, make sure that these ears are on the outside. We're not working into the stitches of the ears. We're only working into the single crochets that we made in round 1 that were worked into the magic loop. So we're going to start in the first one right here. Get our crochet hook into that first stitch. It's always, the first one's always the hardest. And then we go and we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to make our first ear increase. That's what I'm going to call it, our wing increase. So let's start with 3 single crochets. I'm going to work around our tail end here as well for these 3 single crochets, just to make sure that it's locked in place and nothing comes undone. So there's 1, 2, and 3 single crochets to start round 2. pull our little tail end here on the around the outside and ignore it the best we can. Okay, so now our next single crochet is actually all the way over here because this is our ear stitches and we don't want to work into that. So we want to skip those ears and work into that single crochet right there. And in this stitch, we want to do the following. We want to do 1 single crochet. Then we want to make the ear, which is not going to be worked into this stitch. In fact, the ear is going to be to make, I'm sorry, I keep saying the ear, the wing. To make the wing, we're going to chain, well, it's going to be a bit of a process, but we're going to chain 2, make a mini picot, chain 1, make a mini picot, half double crochet into the same space as the first mini picot, then make another mini picot, then we're going to single crochet 1 and slip stitch 1. I know that sounds wild. Don't worry, it's actually not that tough. We're just going to do it 1 stitch at a time. After making that wing, we're going to do 1 more single crochet into this same stitch. Sounds complicated, right? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. The first thing is we need to single crochet into that stitch right here. So we're going to get into our stitch right here and do 1 single crochet, making sure that this wing or this ear is on the outside of our stitch. Okay, so there's our first stitch. All right, there's our single crochet. Now we want to make the wing. Okay, again, to start the wing, we want to start by chaining 2. So yarn over, chain 1, chain 2. Now we want to make a mini picot. For a mini picot, we chain 2, so 1 and 2. Skip the first chain and slip stitch into the back bump of the second chain. So that's going to be right there. So skip that first one, slip stitch into this back bump right here. Make sure to use your nail to help get it over the crochet hook. Yarn over, pull it under that chain, and then under the loop on the hook. And that creates this little point. Next, we want to chain 1. And then we're going to make another mini picot. So chain 2, 1, and 2. Skip our first chain and into the back bump of our second chain from the hook right here, using your nail to help guide your hook into that chain. Boop, there we go. We're going to slip stitch 1 into that. Pull through and pull through. Okay, so now you're going to have something looking kind of like this. Next, we want to half double crochet into the first chain space that we made, or sorry, in the first mini picot that we made. So that's going to be all the way right here. We're going to do a half double crochet into that stitch. So for a half double crochet, again, we yarn over, then we go into the chain we want to work into right here. Yarn over, pull it under, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. 1, 2, and 3. Now we want to make another mini picot for another point. So we chain 2, 1, and 2. Skip our first chain and slip stitch into the back bump of that second chain right there. All right, our last 2 parts of our wing, we want to single crochet 1 into the next back bump right here. And then slip stitch into the final one right there. Pull through and pull through the loop on the hook. Now to finish up this increase, we want to single crochet 1 more time into the same stitch that we worked into before starting our wing. That's going to be right there. So we want to single crochet into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2, 1, and 2 like that. All right, and that's going to be our little wing repeat. And we want to repeat the exact thing that we just did all the way from our single crochet at the start of this round to our single crochet that we just made in the same stitch. We want to repeat that 1 more time to finish up round 2. So we're going to do that whole repeat again. That repeat again is single crochet 3, 1, 2, and 3. Make sure the ear's on the outside and work into the next stitch over, which is going to be right there. And in that stitch, we do 1 single crochet to start us off. And then we do our wing. Our wing again is chain 2, 1, 2, then make a mini picot, chain 2, 1, 2, and slip stitch into the first chain that we made right here, using your nail to help get under that chain. And we're going to do a slip stitch into that. Then we're going to do chain 1 and another mini picot. We chain 2, 1, 2, skip the first, slip stitch into the back bump of the second. Then we half double crochet into our first mini picot space right here. 1, 2, 3. Then we do another mini picot, chain 2, 1, 2. Skip our first chain and slip stitch into the back bump of the second one right there. Now we do 1 single crochet into the next bump right there. And we'll do a single crochet. Then a slip stitch into the last one, which will be right there. And we're going to finish this up by single crocheting one more time into the same stitch that you just worked into to start this. And that's going to be the end of round 2. Round 2 should finish up with 10 stitches around and 2 wings. So when we're counting our stitches around here, let me pull our loop out. When we count our stitches around, we are not counting the stitches that made the wing. We're only counting the single crochet. So that's going to be 1 right here, 2, 3. Here's 4 right there, right after the ear. We skip the wing. 5 is going to be the stitch right after the wing. There's going to be 10, so we want that again. And so that's 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we skip the wing, and where this loop is coming out is going to be our last one right there for 10. All right, we are in the, it's going to get a lot easier now. You've just finished up the hardest part of our rounds. For round 3, we're just going to single crochet into each stitch around, making certain to keep the wings on the outside of your piece. You should have 10 single crochets as we work this round around. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be just before one of the wings. And then notice how I fold the wing over. Make sure it's out of our way so I can work our next single crochet right after the wing, which will be right here, and make another single crochet into that stitch. Okay, so there's 5, 10 single crochets total, making sure the wings are on the outside. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then wing on the outside right here. Pull that a little tighter, and 10. And that's going to be the end of round 3. And you can really start to see our bat coming together now. Now's when I usually like to make sure it's looking in the right direction, right? Looking pretty good. You've seen the shaping coming together. Great. All right, round 4. A nice easy round. For round 4, we just need a single crochet into each stitch around. What I'm going to do before starting round 4, though, I'm going to actually take our tail end from the beginning here. And someone suggested that we pull our tail end from the very top to make, and it'll make a little tuft of hair, and it'll help keep this out of our way as well. So we're going to pull that right out of the top. You could also use this to make a loop if you wanted to make this into earrings or into like a keychain. But I'm just going to cut it nice and short so it's out of our way. So we'll just cut it like that. And now we'll have this little tiny tuft of hair at the top, which I think is going to be a nice, cute addition to our piece. Okay, let's continue on. Again, round 4 is just single crocheting into each stitch around, so we can do that nice and quick here. And hey, if you haven't yet, please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel. We make new patterns like this all the time, and you can check them all out on our website, clubcrochet.com. In fact, if you're considering becoming a supporter of Club Crochet, I would really appreciate it. You don't have to, but it would mean a lot. And the best way is with the Club Crochet membership. Membership gets you early access to future pattern, exclusive library access, even access to design along live streams, which we're actually doing literally right now. This is a live stream, and people are currently watching us design this live, and they helped out with a lot of suggestions. All right, well, let's continue on. That's the end of round 4 with 10 stitches around. And now we can continue on to round 5. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Now we continue on to making the face. Let's pull our loop out here, and we're going to add our face in. First thing, I'm going to kind of try to tweak our wings around a little bit. And your tail end should be on the side of your dominant hand. Okay, so that's going to be how to the first thing we want to do. And the first thing we're going to add is our eyes. We're going to use 6mm eyes today. But if you have don't have 6mm eyes, you can use bullion knots in place of that. I have a tutorial on my website if you want to learn how to make bullion knots. And I have a very specific space that we like to add our eyes. It's going to be into stitches number 5 and stitches number 8 in round 2. We're going to go into the center of those stitches. So if I look, stitch number 5 is actually going to be right after our wing of round 2. So that's going to be right there. So right after our wing. So here's our ear, right under the ear. And what I mean by working into the center of the stitch. So you can kind of see you can work in between stitches like that. You can place your eye right here, right there, or we can go right into the center of that stitch. The way to do that is we want to look for that V and stick your needle right into the center of that V. Stick it almost all the way through, so the fattest part of the needle is right where that stitch is, and I twist it around. And this is going to create a little gap in your stitch, which is going to help us to place that eye into. So see that little gap? Now we're going to take the back of our eye, place it right where that gap is, and I just kind of wiggle it. Wiggle, 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 wiggle as I push in, and it should work its way into the stitch. There we go. So there's the back of our stitch right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and lock it into place because I know that that's where I want it to be. But if you're worried about it, don't lock it yet. Put both eyes in and then lock it. I'm just going to save us a little bit of time and lock it into place now. Okay, so there's our first eye. Kind of see where that's going. The second eye is going to be into stitch number 8. So if this one was stitch number 5, 6, 7, and 8 is going to be right here. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We want to go into the center of that V like that. Stick our needle in just far enough so that the back of our needle is like the fast part of the needle is there, and then twist it, twist it, twist it. If you need extra twisting, need extra space, use your crochet hook instead of a needle. But that should be enough for us. You can see that gap. We're going to take the back of our next eye, place it right where that gap is, and then we'll just wiggle into that stitch like that. And we can lock that eye into place. There we go. Okay. So there's our eyes locked into place. Next thing we want to do is add a couple little teeths. And for our teeth, we're going to use white yarn for this. You don't need very much white yarn. This is probably more than, actually, yeah, that's about probably going to be perfect. And we're going to thread this onto our needle. And you can do your mouth in a few different ways. You can do a little like W mouth. You can do just a happy face. I think it's kind of cute to do these little like teeths. Teeths. The first teeth is going to go right after our first eye that we added right here. We're going to go out of the stitch right next to it. Okay, so it's right actually into between two stitches this time, right there. And then we're going to work down into the center of the stitch under it. So right here, into the center of this upside down V, right there. Get your needle in there, wiggle it in, pull it in, and there's our first tooth. Okay, nice and easy. Next up, we're going to come out right after the stitch right before our next eye right here. Make sure to not accidentally work around anything on the inside. So that's going to be right there for our next tooth. And then we're going to work down. This time I want to work down in between the stitch under it right here, just because it looks a little bit cleaner into this stitch right there. Oh, try not to accidentally work around our wing. And there's going to be our little teeths. And now we can just double knot these two tail ends of the white yarn on the inside, and it'll hold everything into place. 1 and 2, just like that. We'll go ahead and cut this relatively close, and maybe we'll use these little extra bits for stuffing in a second. All right, so that's going to be how to add our face. We got a little cute little fuzz at the top of our head too. Looking pretty adorable so far. All right, we only have one more round to go, and that's going to be round 5. Let's get our yarn or hook in place. Pull it tighter. And for round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1 invisible decrease, repeated twice, to bring down our stitch count from 10 to 8. So 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And then our invisible decrease is going to be the front loops of 2 stitches and then a single crochet like this. And then we're going to repeat that process one more time. 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then our invisible decrease working into those front loops only, 1 and 2, and then a single crochet. There we go. All right, we can finish this bat up by cutting our yarn. We need just a long enough end to sew it closed, and we can pull this all the way through. And now we want to stuff our bat up a little bit. You actually don't really need too much stuffing because this piece is so tiny. I'm just going to use the threads of what we used our white in the very start of our pattern with. I'm just going to thread that in, or push that into the inside. Try to make sure it is above or around the eyes so that the stuffing is like correctly put in there. That's actually, yeah, I think that's going to be enough stuffing for us. I accidentally pulled this loop out, so I'm just going to go poke that in the top. There we go. Okay, now before I sew it closed, let's add little magnets in the bottom of our bat, just so that it can be, we can like kind of hide it and prop it up upside down somewhere so we can hide it easier. I'm going to use 3 of these neodymium magnets. These are these super duper strong magnets. We're going to place 3 of them right into the center after stuffing it, and then we can sew around those magnets. We're going to thread our needle with our tail end, and to sew our bat closed, we're going to go into the front loops of each stitch around from our last round. We're going to go up the first front loop and then out the second front loop like this. And we're going to do that for each stitch around. So up the first, out the second. And so you can do it in one fell swoop as well. Up the first, out the second, up the first, and then out the second for our last front loops. Hold it really tight and then just pull it nice and tight and it'll close that loop up. Take our tail end here, go right down into the center. You can also go out the top if you want an extra bit of tuft, but I think our first tuft is actually pretty cute, so we don't need more. I'm going to go out the back instead. And we're going to pull it nice and tight there. Cut the yarn pretty close. And I like to just squish it a little bit to make sure that knot's on the inside. Let's fix our ears a little bit. And we have a little Amigurumi bat. How cute is that? Oh my god, they're so cute. Look at them. I wonder if I'd cut the no, the magnets are opposite, so they're pushing against each other. But what's really cool about these magnets, place it on anything metal like these scissors here, and it will lock into place so that we can hide it really well around our house. All right, there's our Amigurumi bat. Okay, super quick bonus pattern. While editing this video, I figured out how to make an even tinier version of these little bats with even less steps. So let me go ahead and explain how to do that really quick as well. Just because I thought, you know, let's add this to the end before it's too late. We're going to start with a magic loop, and I'm going to go ahead and do 3 single crochets in the magic loop to get started. Basically, to make these little tiny bats, all we need to do is replace the ears in the beginning with little wings instead. Okay, so we did 3 single crochets. Now we want to make one of our wings. We make the wings the exact same way as we made the wings before. We chain 4 and we slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip the first and slip stitch into the second chain from that hook. Half double crochet into the first mini picot spot that we made right there. Do a mini picot by chaining 2 and slip stitching into the first chain that we made. Then single crochet into the next chain and slip stitch into the last chain. So this is exactly the same as I made them for our larger bats. Now single crochet 4 more times into the magic loop before making another wing. All right, so 4 single crochets, Pull a little tighter here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and make another wing really fast. Okay, there's our second mini wing. Now we're just gonna do 1 single crochet into the magic loop, pull it tight, and that's gonna be the end of round 1 of our ultra mini bats. In fact, actually, you could just kind of end it there if you wanted to as well. But we're going to go ahead and make it 2 more rounds higher. So for rounds 3 and 4, that's 2 rounds in a row, we just need to do 1 single crochet for each stitch around. When you get to the wings, make sure to work around the wings, just like how we did on our larger bat, so that the wings are on the outside. I basically pull it over to the side and then get into the next stitch right after the wings and do my single crochets there. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing single crochets. We want 2 rounds of single crochets. That's going to be 12 single crochets total, and the only thing you really need to look out for is to make sure to work around the wings as you make those single crochets. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 3 and our last round for these little tiny bats. To finish up a little bat, all we need to do is cut it and sew it closed. We want to make sure to stuff it a little bit, but actually I think that this little tail end from the very beginning of our magic loop is actually probably enough for stuffing because it's really, really tiny, so you barely even need to stuff it. I'm going to sew it closed the exact same way as I sewed closed our larger bats. Essentially, we're going to thread it onto our needle like this, and then we're going to go into the front loops, going in the front and then out the next for every single stitch around. Just like how we did it for our normal bat. I think these miniature itty bitty versions of the bat here would be great for earrings, especially if you made them with like embroidery thread. Now we can just pull it nice and tight, go right into the center, and now I like to go right out the top like this. Pull it tight. And then you can use this to kind of add it to a keychain or sew it to something. But there you go. You have a super ultra mini version of those little tiny bats. Thank you so much for crocheting this pattern along with me. Hope you enjoyed making it as much as I enjoyed designing it. And it was really fun to design this pattern because we actually designed it in a live crochet along as part of our newest camp crochet. So we have these design alongs that we do all the time. If you want to join those live streams, all you need to do is like this video down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell icon so you don't miss it when we come out with new videos or new live streams like this one. If you want to check out more patterns like this, like our Amigurumi collection, you can find them all at minigurumi.com or clubcrochet.com/minigurumi. You can also find our Halloween series of patterns at clubcrochet.com/Halloween. Thank you so much again for watching. Pasta la pizza, happy hooking. If you want to share this picture with me, we're at Club Crochet Online, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.